Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Sprint 91 review. Get started. I am going to do the sprint statistics today. Jason's told it. Community update will be done by John, followed by the UI by Dan. Providers, we got Bronagh and Adam. Automate by Tina. Tina, right? Platform is Gregg T. REST API is Alberto, and wrapping up with the documentation, Chris. Next slide. This sprint, there were 383 PRs total merged across 94 repos. The integration tests UI Classic, once again, have the highest amounts, followed by ManageIQ, ManageIQ content, and some other directories. I need a nap. PRs merged this sprint across ManageIQ repositories is up. I think we're doing a lot of push towards more features, trying to get that in. Some of the final weeks wrapping up. Yep. And I'm expecting that to continue along. Next sprint. Oh, my words. Distribution and types of PRs merged across the repositories. As you can see, we're doing a lot of enhancements right now. We're trying to get those over the hump. But we're also doing a lot of bug fixes at the same time. And you can see the rest are a smattering. Next thing is classic. The health report's pretty flat. UI Classic has a few more issues that crept in, but it's not really that much percentage-wise. So everything's relatively flat. Slide.
Okay.
And over to John.
Thank you. So we have the poll to name the next release, the I release.
Gotta say it right.
The winner is Ivanchuk.
Chuk.
Ivanchuk. Darn it.
Ivanchuk.
Thank you, Ivanchuk. So, I mean, that's basically all there is. Thanks for everybody that voted. I think there was like 95 people who participated. Thanks. So, next slide.
All right, I'll take it. So on the UI, after last sprint, which was more of a holiday sprint, number of PRs is back up. So 110 total, and lot of bugs fixed. Like Jason said, we're trying to get things cleaned up for the Hammer release, and it's looking good. Some of the bugs, outstanding bugs here. There was an issue with the find type of element in the expression editor, so that was taken care of. With our mixture of Ajax and Angular and React, there's some issues cropping up. So a helper was added to make sure that all the React components were cleared from the virtual DOM, because sometimes the Ajax can come along and step on things. Where they fixed the sub-collections under components. Some of them were linked wrong. Also, when you're tagging catalog items, the feature ID was incorrect to actually, make sure that was fixed. Containers never had driving events implemented for alerts, so that was just hidden for them. Trying to save a custom button without a dialog was broken. That was fixed. And another one of those React type helpers was created, so making sure that the div tag was always closed. Next slide. On the enhancement side, quite a few. Last sprint, I think we added the warning level for the filter events. So this time, this sprint, that was added as the ability to filter on that in the timelines. Some new physical infrastructure screens were created. Chassis and storages both have lists and summaries now. Inside the provider dashboards, trying to get those all common, working kind of the same way. So containers provider dashboard, flip to use the Angular patternfly components that the other ones are using, a new cloud provider dashboard, and then pie charts added to the physical infrastructure dashboards. When you're refreshing an Ansible repository, sometimes that could fail, and there was no way to tell why. So now we can see the output from that and figure it out. SUI, the retirement for services, change that to a modal so you can see which services you're retiring and you have a chance to decide whether you want to or not. On V2V, quite a few things added. Be able to cancel a migration that's in progress, the tasks that are in progress, you can cancel that. You can add, there's a new scheduling for the completed mappings, so you can, I guess, reschedule or actually schedule it to run. And then in the plan wizard, there's a new advanced options step we'll see that in the screenshots. Next slide. So there's the warning type events. That's in the timeline. I flipped to the next slide so I can talk about it while the GIF is going. So here's a GIF. Actually, yeah, I just showed it, but yeah, that's good. Yeah, so it just selected the different types of filters that you can have on there, critical detail and warning, and then it'll allow you to obviously still select them, and you can see now that the warning ones are showing up in the timeline. You can pull up this slide deck later and watch the whole thing. I don't want to spend time; it's pretty long. Next slide. All right. SUI, here you go, where you select one or more services, and you get a modal now, where you can actually see, it'll show you all the services that you selected, and then you can either cancel or go ahead with the retirement. Next slide. Canceling migrations in progress tasks. Select as many as you want, hit cancel, it'll show you which ones they are, and then decide whether you want to cancel those or not, and then confirmation message, obviously. Next slide. Here you go. If you have completed migration plans, they've added the schedule button on the right there. You can then schedule them to run again. Next. And here's the advanced option. So this is a new step that was added, and you can see you have pre and post playbooks that can be run, and then you can decide of the VMs that you're going to migrate, which of those VMs you want to run the pre and the post on, and you can actually have granular control over there with those checkboxes as to which ones you want to actually run either of those methods on, or playbooks, sorry. And next slide. Off to providers. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Dan. Next slide, please. So this was a strong sprint for the Nuage provider. It accounts for over a quarter of all merged provider PRs, and 17% for the Ansible Tower provider. And I'm going to describe some of the more notable changes for both of those providers. Next slide, please. So first with Azure. So Graph Refresh has been in place for a number of months, but it was disabled by default. So this sprint, we enabled it by default. And you can toggle Graph Refresh on and off in the advanced settings as illustrated. Next slide, please. So the Ansible Tower provider. So when the cloning of a repo failed, it would fail silently, which was terribly unhelpful for the end user. They had no idea what went wrong. So this sprint, we logged to standard out the failure. Then Tomas made some enhancements to the service layout, and this brings parity with the embedded Ansible layout. And if we go to the next screen, I have a screenshot of that. So this is a screenshot of the service layout. You'll see that Tomas added a tab for the job, and it displays some execution data, so start time, end time, and it also logs to standard out. Next slide, please. So onto the Nuage provider. So the XLabs team added support for the create operation for subnets and delete operation for floating IP security groups and cloud subnets, and the Ansible runner. And Adam is going to dig into that a little deeper. He has a slide dedicated to that. Then there was an issue with the deletion of cloud tenants. So when a cloud tenant was deleted on the provider, its dependents were deleted too, as you would expect. So that's routers, subnets, security groups, ports, floating IPs. But no event was fired. And without an event, those dependents persisted in the ManageIQ database, effectively becoming zombie children. So that got fixed. Next slide, please. And finally on Nuage, targeted refresh was implemented this sprint for network ports, floating IPs, subnets, and floating cloud networks. Over to Adam.
Thanks, Bronagh. So this sprint, Martin S. has finished moving all providers over to the new inventory collection interface. There were a couple of holdouts, VMware and Overt, that we moved over. And this allowed us to delete the two different methods of adding graph refresh inventory collections. So that was a nice cleanup that LJ would approve of. Yeah, we got 2 thumbs up in the back of the room there. So great job, Martinez, on that. And we moved Overt over to the new targeted refresh format. So Overt was one of the first to do targeted refresh with graph refresh, and they had a lot of specific hacks that we've since improved and moved into core. So this is a cleanup to basically move all of that specific logic out of the provider and onto core where it's better tested. Next slide. For the Ansible operations part, we moved away from using Ansible core over to using Ansible runner after a number of issues that we found were fixed and released. So that gives us a lot more flexibility around what's being returned and just a lot more nice features compared to using Ansible core. We also now validate parameters for the Ansible runner. So we'll confirm that environment variables and extra arguments are actually hashes, make sure the playbooks exist, things like that. Lattice also added the ability to run playbooks using Ansible runner asynchronously. So if it's something that we're expecting to take longer than a queue timeout, like it's going to take 20 minutes, an hour, you can run that asynchronously. And then we also added a state machine that helps you wait for that playbook to finish. So it's a job-based state machine that you can queue checks every minute, every second, whatever, check to see when it's finished. And it gives you some hooks to run pre and post playbook operations there. And next slide.
Okay, thanks, Adam. We had 25 PRs merged this sprint, and Fabian's been very busy with B2B for the last few weeks. He added a new transformation cleanup state machine. He modified the weighted update status method to trigger the cleanup state machine for task cancellation and migration failures. He added support for calling pre and post migration playbooks. He added support for the SSH transport method and added support for MAC address and network mapping, and is using targeted refresh during transformation instead of a full refresh. Next slide, please. TrueU created a rake task for custom button export and is currently working on the import task. Madhu added verify SSL to the list of valid attributes to allow provider to disable certificate check. And Billy Fitz modified Quota to use a service provisioning dialog instance type override in calculating cloud requested values. Eric fixed a dialog time picker issue and a service UI issue where the service dialog containing a required field failed validation when adding a service order to the cart. Madhu resolved an issue where an empty string in the Ansible playbook method execute TTL parameter caused the job to be terminated immediately. And TrueU changed the service UI service list retire selection to use the new make request method instead of the old retire now method. Next slide and over to Greg.
Okay, for the platform team, we got 22 PRs merged. A couple of enhancements here to talk about. So Joe V finished the OpenID Connect work. Last time I mentioned that he completed it for the containerized version. This is the appliance side. There's a bunch of PRs related to that he did, and I should also mention he did all the UI work for it too. You reminded me last time. And for Postgres HA admin, so Nick's been doing a lot of the groundwork for supporting HA environments where we have replication going to. So those two didn't play nice together. So he's working towards getting that all working right for the Hammer release, and those PRs are related to that. A couple of bug fixes. Jovi fixed the authentication issue that was failing in a multi-region environment as well. He did some more normalization for usernames, converting them to UPN, user principal name. And Leadboard fixed the chargeback issue. There are a bunch of other bug fixes, but these are the ones of note. That's it for platform. Turn it over to Alberto.
Thanks, Greg. So for the API side of things, we had a couple of enhancements that come in. First one was adding the ability to edit schedules of service templates by Brandon. So this was needed for B2B support, and we support both single and bulk edits as shown in the two post example. Next slide, please. Okay, another enhancements by Brandon. Again, this is for B2B. We added the ability to cancel requests. We can do single and bulk cancels, and works on both the requests as well as the request tasks. Showing here the examples on posting the cancel for the service request of service templates, the service requests themselves, as well as request tasks of service requests. Next slide, please. Okay, so Charles added an enhancement where we now expose the event streams. It's a sub-collection for physical resources. And as shown by the get examples, we expose that on physical servers, physical chassis, and switches, and the standard, querying the sub-collections or sub-resource, individual sub-resources. Next slide, please. Okay, so we have an enhancement by Madhu. Here we added the supporting configuration scripts. So we needed to expose Ansible job templates and workflows. So we have a new primary collection API/configuration scripts and showing get examples on the collection and the resource of those. And that's it for the API. Next slide.
Hi, on documentation this sprint, we had 4 PRs. Mislabeled the sprint number there. The highlights are we've added a section on tagging for Ansible playbooks, repositories, and credentials. We've added a procedure for using the reconfigure virtual machine operations to resize disks, as well as add or remove network adapters. And we've added a procedure for mapping to Active Directory groups. Next slide, please.
All right, that's the end of Sprint 91. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. This next sprint review will be on Wednesday, August 15th. And that's it. Hope you have a good day.